Okay, enough of the hippie music. I'm going to stop right here.
Hey, Andy, we didn't hear any music.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't hear any music.
Yep.
Oh.
You are the only one that enjoyed the music. We didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Oh well, music's done. Okay. We have currently got 57. I guess we can start right now. So thank you again for signing up for this webinar on leading innovation through crisis with game thinking. I think this is a timely topic for all of us over here and is quite applicable. So we'll be talking about 3 core principles of game thinking tonight. We'll be touching on superfans, the mastery path, and how to build pleasurable learning loops to create long-term engagement. Okay, you'll hear about how Tesla, a company known for its innovation, use game thinking to engage and identify its core customer segment. We also hear about Travel Triangle, an online marketing platform that connects travelers looking for highly personalized trips with local agents and how they improve its innovation process using game thinking. Okay, and before we get full steam ahead, I'm going to do some housekeeping. So we are going to send you a recording of this webinar within 48 hours. And if you have got any questions, there's a Q&A box at the bottom. So please post your questions there. Please do not post your questions in the chat because you might get lost in the clutter. All right. And lastly, we will send you something special at the end of this webinar. So that's our way of thanking you for spending this time with us. All right. Okay. Let me introduce our speakers for today. We have with us Jaxton and Ambikesh. Jaxton is from Malaysia, Ambikesh is from India. Now, these are both very highly experienced game thinking consultants. They're really knowledgeable and they're really generous in sharing their knowledge. So if you have any questions, do feel free to ask. Now, let me hand over the mic to Jaxton and Ambikesh. Jaxton, why don't you start?
Sure. Thanks, Andy. Hey, guys. Thanks for joining us in this webinar. This is Jaxton here. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I founded a trading company 10 years ago and acquired by People Science. So right now, I'm representing People Science. At the same time, I'm a gamification designer and also a certified game thinking coach. I started my gamification journey about 7 years ago with the intention to solve technology adoption's problem. During that time, it was a lonely journey because there are not many people know about gamification 7 years ago. So I have to travel to US and Europe to learn from the expert like Amy Joachim. So I was very fortunate to train and coach by Amy Joachim and get myself to be the first game thinking coach in Asia. I do mostly gamification project or game thinking project related to workplace, such as we design employee experience, employee engagement, employee onboarding journey, and etc. At the same time, I also apply game thinking for product management and product development related project. What about you, Ambikesh?
Hi everyone, this is Ambikesh. I'm based out of Mumbai, India. I am the first certified game thinking coach in India, and my journey has actually been started because of Jaxton. He's the one who set me on the path of game thinking. Before that, I've been a consultant in the IT consulting space, and I moved on the product side in the past few years. I've been introduced to the topic of gamification because I was working for with a company that had a product in gamification. But when I wanted to deep dive into it, that's when Jaxton told me about game thinking. And I was fortunate that, through Jaxton, I was able to connect with Amy Jo Kim. She was here in India. We hosted her in Mumbai. And that's what set me on that path. And after that, I got myself certified on game thinking, working with Amy Jo Kim. And since then, there's been no looking back. We've worked on a number of projects using this methodology and have seen wonderful results. And I'm glad to be here to share those with you today.
Right. Thanks, Jaxton and Ambikesh, for your introductions. My name is Andy, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm from Singapore. So I actually began my adventure, working adventure in IT after running call centers and service desks for many years, for many of the big name tech companies, I realized I had a knack for transforming teams, and that's where I've been for the last 10 years. Using mostly game-based and play-based methods like Lego Serious Play, I work with organizations both big and small to drive employee engagement and transform teams. And gamification was one of the tools that I was looking into, and then I stumbled into game thinking, which is why I managed to hook up with Jaxton and Ambikesh. Okay, with the introductions out of the way, let's get going. Currently, we are in the midst of a pandemic. Do you know that there are actually more people in lockdown right now than there are people alive 100 years ago? Boggles the mind, right? Many of us are personally affected in one way or another by this current crisis. Companies have shut down, jobs have been lost, right? So Jaxton and Ambikesh, what are your thoughts about this current crisis?
Maybe I'll go first, Andy. So certainly for people science, we see it as a very good opportunity because we already been in this digital space for some times, right? So been introducing gamifications and using digital solutions and helping clients to adopt technology. But then the more conversation that we have during this period of time with some of these HR leaders, specifically looking into how we help the employees, looking into digitalizations and also, moving on with the digital transformation. But at the same time, I also have some of this conversation with the business leaders that they were so eager to pivot their services and also their product. The reason being, I think they found out that the people currently, their consumer or their customer, they have changed. What have changed, maybe their behavior, their habit is different. So therefore, they want to very quickly tap into this because even one of the business leaders shared with me, if we are not doing this right now, their competitors will be doing this and they are losing out the market share. So I believe there are more people, and also I believe that our audience that join us today, they certainly see this as an opportunity. What do you think, Ambikesh?
Same here, Jackson. I completely agree with you. So I keep hearing a lot of these business gurus and other webinars that I've attended where people talk about, the mindset of business owners right now. It's about the mindset. There are things that are under your control, then there are things that are not under your control. So, if you're not in the front end, like a doctor or a policeman, you probably can't do much about the virus and the containment. But what you can control are aspects of your business. And when we talk about that, we at Mad Methods are doing.
Ambikesh, you're muted.
Oh, damn. Sorry, guys. Can you hear me now? Right?
Yep. Good.
Right. So I was saying, Jackson, I completely agree with you. It's the same thing here. I've heard a lot of business gurus and consultants talk about how it's about the mindset right now. And, how there are things that are under your control and then there are things that are not under your control. And, if you're not on the front line, like a doctor or maybe in the special services, there's not much that you can do except staying at home. But there are aspects of your business, of your work that you can probably control, right? And we at Mad Methods are trying to do the same. We're looking at this as an opportunity to help our customers, our prospects, look at how to extend their business into the digital world, probably with the help of methodologies such as game thinking, and of course the technical and the technology solutions that you might require. So we're definitely looking at this as an opportunity, Andy.
Right. Thanks, Jaxton and Ambikesh. So Winston Churchill, he famously said, never let a crisis go to waste. And across the globe, across the globe, you see car companies producing ventilators, luxury brands producing face masks, like a Louis Vuitton face mask. Beer makers and distilleries are producing hand sanitizers. So these companies are certainly not letting the current crisis go to waste. And I pivoted in a way to remain relevant and also to avoid having to lay off their employees. Now, the billion-dollar question is always, how do we tap into the opportunities out there? How do we innovate quickly and how to thrive, right? So there are no shortages of innovation methods out there. share with us which of them you're most familiar with. So, you heard us talking about game thinking and all, right? Tell us what else are you familiar with so that we know roughly, what you guys are coming from, where you guys are coming from. And let's do this little poll, okay? It's a short poll for 30 seconds. Okay, so there are only a few questions. So let us know. It's not a right or wrong thing. Just select what you're most familiar with. So guys, which do you think will be the most familiar methodologies from our audience out there?
I think agile design thinking has been quite a famous framework that has been long adopted. I think agile, even right now, we're talking about agile culture as well. It's no longer just focused on like software developments. Yeah, and design thinking is definitely, there are many people actually been doing design thinking, and I'm also a design thinking practitioner as well. Yeah, but I would guess it might be agile and design thinking. Let's see our audience. It gets very subjective,
Okay.
right?
I put my money on design thinking.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
Time
so-
should be almost up.
Yeah.
And can we have a look at the results?
Let's see what is the result. Ta-da! Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, you guys are right. Design thinking
Yeah.
is
So the
top.
first is a design thinking. Second is the agile. Yes.
Oh, it's lovely to see a lot of people know about game thinking too.
Wow. Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
Interesting.
Yep. That's
Okay,
good.
cool.
Right.
So let's have Ambikesh maybe explain to us what game thinking is about and how it synergizes with design thinking, agile systems thinking.
Sure. Thanks,
Ambikesh?
Andy.
Yep.
So guys, game thinking is a synthesis of game design, systems thinking, agile and lean UX, and design thinking, which aims to accelerate innovation and drive sustained engagement. So if that's what you're looking for, you're in the right place. World-renowned social game designer, community architect, and startup coach, Amy Jo Kim, founded the Game Thinking Academy to help entrepreneurs and innovators 10x their product market fit. She's worked with many amazing teams, at companies like Netflix, eBay, The Sims, and Happify. And game thinking has helped companies to innovate and design new and unique experiences, either for their employees or maybe for their customers. And thousands of entrepreneurs have leveraged game thinking to innovate faster and smarter and build products that people love and come back to again and again.
Okay, that sounds great. Now, since almost a good portion of our audience here are familiar with design thinking, maybe Jaxton, you can bring us into the similarities and differences between game thinking and game thinking.
Yep. Okay. So one of the very obvious similarity between these two innovation framework, the game thinking and the design thinking, is both are using double diamond approach. As you can see, we focus from the problem space and all the way design and towards the solution space, where we never start looking at the solutions, but truly understand what problem are we solving for our customer. All right. So the 5-step process is a very structured process that actually lead the innovations and to 10x your product market fits. The first, we look at a hypothesis, basically is to understand what actually we are designing for. There will be an MVP canvas. This will be a freebies, to all of you. Stay tuned until the last that we're actually going to share with you the MVP canvas that you're going to put in what will be your solutions, who we are designing for, what are their unmet needs, value propositions, what are the early metrics that you're measuring, what are the key assumptions that help you to structure your thoughts, what are you doing? And moving on to the second phase where you identify the right people that you're going to talk to. And later I'm going to talk about what is this Superfans all about. And then you do the user interview, understand your users, and then you move on to the design phase. And we are going to cover the very important part in the design phase in the later stage by Ambikesh. And then followed by the play test. Whatever that we build, we need to play test with our users, the early adopters, and ensure that we are building on the right things. And the final stage to validate the entire design when you are preparing for your launch, whether you're on the beta phase, So these are the 5-step, very structured approach that leading us in doing the innovations in the game thinking. Yeah. Over back to you, Andy.
Thanks, Jackson. Thanks for going into a little bit of detail explaining the framework. So I want to, how many of you actually seen this picture before? I think it adequately, or it actually does a very good job of summing up how clients, customers actually design products, and then how the users at the end of the day end up looking and using the product itself. To the person designing the product, say, hey, everything looks great. And then to the user, it's like, nope, that's not what I wanted, or it's not what I was hoping for, right? Okay, so let us go into the 3 core principles: the hardcore superfans, the compelling mastery path, and the pleasurable learning loop. Okay, Jackson really loves the hardcore superfans, so I'm going to leave that to him to bring us through it and share his coaching experience with Tesla as an example. And Ambikesh will cover the mastery path and the pleasurable learning loop because they are both linked together and work together very well to build long-term engagement with users. Okay, so let me pass you over to Jackson to begin this segment.
Yes, thanks, Andy. All right. So let me cover this very important part of the early adopters. So you might wonder who you should talk to during your early stage of innovations, because talking to the wrong people will slow down your product market fit and also wasting your resources, especially during this period of time where in the crisis, the resources are very limited. You want to ship your product to your customer the soonest possible to capture the market, but at the same time, you also want to ensure that you are designing the right solutions for your customer. In design thinking, we leverage on both extreme users. In game thinking, we leverage on early adopters, aka superfans. The superfans concept began with the diffusion of innovation theory from Everett Rogers. 1961, Everett Rogers, a scientist, published this book called Diffusion of Innovations based on 5 years of data gathering from different communities. The punchline of this graph is innovation never starts with the majority. It spread through the innovators and the early adopters, then through the majority. But more interestingly is Geoffrey Moore, based on what the diffusion of innovation theory, he claimed that that is the chasm in between the early adopters and the early majority. And sad to say, many innovators fail to cross the chasm. Let me give you an example. This is an old article. Okay, so they analyzed from January to July 2018, only with the seven months, there are 8 billions of apps being deleted with the lifespan only less than 6 days. So there are many innovations that are not able to reach out to the majority. In game thinking, we strongly believe the innovations, we should start here, which is with the innovators and as well as the early adopters, and not from the majority. So we will design and spread through the early adopters and to the majority, but we will never want to start at the majority. So moving on, let me quote one example, which is my favorite. I believe everyone would have known Tesla. So Tesla is a very innovative company. They have very innovative products. Tesla is one of the fastest or very advanced electric vehicle. I was fortunate to coach Tesla in San Francisco 3 years ago during my time working as a game thinking coach during Game Thinking Live global event. I was helping Tesla pre-owner journey team to design Tesla pre-owner journey to identify the superfans that fit into the interview and identify what we should design during the Tesla pre-owner journey. I then worked with the Tesla owner journey on the later stage. Looking at Tesla as an innovative products and the companies, in this technology adoption cycle, different people falls under different adopters category will give you a very different response. Example, If the people falls under innovators and early adopters, probably this group of the people, they already own a Tesla or they want to buy a Tesla. They will say Tesla is advanced, and they will probably actually give some suggestions if they're already driving a Tesla, how you can improve the apps that they're actually using, and to check their Tesla status. But when you are talking to the people, if falls under early majority, probably you will get some feedback. It's like, yeah, if I want to buy a Tesla, probably if Tesla could reduce the price or have more supercharging station, because Tesla is an expensive EV, electric vehicle. It almost double the price of those normal electric vehicle. And the supercharging station during that time wasn't very complete and cover the coverage in the entire United States. But then if you're talking to those people that falls under late majority, they will probably need social proof. This group of people, they want social proof. They want to see if, let's say, more people drive Tesla, more Tesla on the road, then they will consider to buy a Tesla. And the lagger, you do not want to even look at it, because until the end of life, that they will not even change. Imagine, or I would say, if you take a step back, right? What is the purpose of talking to these users? Because we want to hear from them how they, to validate our ideas and how we can improvise and refine our design, right? So you can see, certainly talking to different group of people, that actually you get very different feedback. So moving on, I want to give you guys some tips. There are characteristics that you are able to identify the superfans, right? So if it's a superfans, they have these 4 characteristics. The first characteristic is they have a problem you want to solve. The second characteristic is they know they have a problem and it's top of mind. The reason why, because if they do not know they have a problem, you cannot help them to solve the problem. They will not able to give you suggestion as well to solve the problem, right? And the third one, the third characteristic is they are trying to solve their problem by seeking out with current options. The current options maybe is your competitor products, who knows, right? And the last characteristic is they are still not satisfied with the current options or maybe your competitors' products. And then when you're able to identify these 4 characteristics of the superfans, these superfans, they are high needs, high value users that are willing to talk to you and contribute to your solutions that solve their problem. And moving on, I want to give you guys more tips as well when it comes to screening process. How we do superfans screening process. First, looking at the channel, you can leverage on whatever channel that currently you are using. If you are doing an employee, a workplace related project, you could probably use your email. You can use your intranet. If you are doing for consumer, then you can use your social media channel, or you can use your typical marketing channel to send out the screening, the survey, right? So what is important in the survey? First, you need an outreach message. This is an example where we did a project with an airline that to help them design Office 365 user adoption, right? So the outreach message is important because you need to write it in a way that what problem you are solving, the people that have the problem, they can relate and they want to participate and join the survey, the screening. And then remember not to ask too many questions. So we suggest 6 questions, which is really good. And first, 3, sorry, a bit too fast. Okay, so first, 3 multiple choice questions. So the multiple choice questions will help you to slice the audience and put them into different buckets, right? And the more important one will be the open-ended questions, because open-ended questions answers reveal the user motivations and their behavior. So when you receive all the responses already, how are you going to filter? So you can try the stoplight method. If they fall under red, probably they give you a very minimal response, right? Or if they fall under yellow, maybe it's not very convincing, but they brought up certain points that is valid. And the very important one is green. Green is definitely a go. Why? Because this group of the people, they give relevant responses. They give thought-provoking responses. When you read about their responses, you want to talk to them. Why? Because you want to find out more. You want to ask them more questions to help you to understand what kind of problem are they facing and how your solution is going to fit in to solve their problem. And why superfans is very important? Because you can look at the Superfans funnel from the screening, and we run the interview with the Superfans, and we also do the play test with the Superfans. Meaning to say, the Superfans is going to follow you alongside in the entire innovation journey to help you to refine and give you suggestions. And they could be your ambassador to share your products to the rest of the people that they know, or their families and friends. That's my sharing about Hardcore Super Friends. Andy, hand it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Jackson. Thanks for that insightful sharing. So in other words, you know, to just sum up what you said, the super fans are people who I guess we can consider as your collaborators, your co-creators, people
Yep.
who are really, really invested in having this solution. And because they are really invested, they want you to succeed as well, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, thanks. You know, your Tesla experience sounds very interesting. Could you share what you were coaching Tesla about?
Okay, so I can tell very detailed, okay, because there's project under Game Thinking Academy. So we were coaching Tesla when they want to design a Tesla pre-owner journey during that time. So the Tesla pre-owner journey is that people place $1,000 booking from the Tesla website until the moment they get the key. That's the entire defined journey. So what needs to happen? Okay, example, social trigger, social influence people who wants to also place a booking fees to get a Tesla. Yeah, that's all I can share. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Thanks. Maybe we can share a little bit more later over copy or something.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay, so up next, we're going to have Ambikesh sharing about the mastery path. Okay, so over here, Ambikesh should be using the example of Zomato. And Zomato is something that we may not be familiar with in this section of in this region of the world, but Ambikesh will use that as an example because we do have some analogs of that. Okay, so Ambikesh, can I hand this over to you?
Sure. Right. So, you know, as Andy mentioned in the beginning, we're talking about three core pillars and three core concepts of game thinking. So, the second key principle of game thinking that we are going to talk about today is creating a compelling mastery path. So, we divide a user's journey into four separate stages: discovery, onboarding, habit building, and mastery. The philosophy of game thinking is don't make your product better. I know this sounds weird, guys, but don't make your product better. Make the user better at what they're trying to get better at. Let's look at how to do that. In the discovery phase, we focus on answering questions for the user like, what is this? Is it right for me? What's the value proposition? During onboarding, the user needs to be shown around, needs to learn the ropes, needs to start getting value from the product. In the habit building phase, which is the most important stage, we drill into the urge that would pull back the user. What is the user getting better at by using the product again and again? That is how the user develops a habit. Once the core habit is developed, we need to focus on what is the next progression for the users. What is there for the masters? Let me demonstrate this compelling mastery path design with the help of an example. All of us in India surely know about Zomato. For those who don't know of it, Zomato is a food review and delivery app widely used in India and several other countries. In Singapore and Malaysia, I think you have similar services like Foodpanda, Deliveroo, and GrabFood. Let's look at what discovery might look like for Zomato. So I submitted a review of my favorite waffle joint and I posted it on Facebook. My friends might discover Zomato through that. This is what we would call social discovery. Mind you, Zomato uses several other ways of discovery too, like marketing campaigns, advertisements, influencer campaigns, etc. Now, when a new user joins the platform, They are taken through a spotlight tour that highlights the different sections of the app. The habit is formed around food. We go to Zomato whenever we want to eat out or get food delivered. And for the masters, there are special treats. Depending on your contribution to the platform, one gets elevated to different levels, the highest being connoisseur. I have friends who are at this level, and believe me, at every weekend they get invited for free dinners to new restaurants because they have a lot of fan following on Zomato, and they would write a review for a restaurant, and then hundreds or thousands of people possibly would see it. So it's free marketing for the restaurant. So they get rewarded for it. So let's do a quick poll, guys. Now that you know about the 4 stages, which of these 4 stages should one start with when developing a product or service when we are looking for a long-term engagement? That's the quick poll,
Okay.
guys.
Okay, again, there is no right or wrong answers on this. We just want to have an idea of what you guys think would be one of the starting stage for developing a mastery path. So Ambikesh, which level are you at?
Which level in Zomato? I'm stuck at the basic level. I eat a lot of food, but I'm not contributing a lot to the platform, I guess, which is why they haven't elevated me.
Maybe you should.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, time should be up already. So let's have a look at the results. Okay. Oh, a great majority says habit building. You guys must have been reading the game thinking book, right? Okay, Ambikesh.
Absolutely, we have a smart audience with us, Andy. So, okay, let me explain this. So, as game thinkers, we have something called the game thinking innovation roadmap. On top, if you can see, we have 4 stages of the mastery path. On the left axis, we have stages of a product. In the MVP stage, we need to focus only on habit building. And you guys are bang on, all of you who said habit building. It's because we work with a small group of superfans to validate our design at this stage. In the beta version, the next progression for a product, we need to have our onboarding ready before we do that, because we will be exposing our design to people outside the closed cohort of superfans. They may need some help in learning the ropes. Before we launch our product, we must have our discovery design ready, because we need to nail down how people will discover, whether we'll answer those initial questions for them or not. And once users have spent a considerable time on the platform and we need to expand, we might need to design the mastery path for them, the mastery stage for them. Keep in mind, the super fans come in really handy at this stage too. They help you create your mastery. So, guys, most of you were right. We would say this is where you need to start.
Okay. So now that we have kind of pinned down that we need to start there, how does that actually go? How do you tie this to the pleasurable learning loop? Maybe you can use the method to continue explaining the relationship.
Sure. Absolutely, Annie. So as we'd already pointed out, the habit loop or the pleasurable learning loop is, one of the most important aspects of game thinking here. And it consists of a cue or a trigger that results in the user performing a pleasurable activity. That is something that she's trying to get better at by being on the platform. After the user performs that activity, a skill building feedback must be provided to the user by the platform. Now, guys, this is very important. This is a very important aspect of building long-term engagement, because, the users are trying to get better at something, right? So they need a feedback from the platform that they just got better at something that they were trying to get better at. So that's what this is. The product must show the user's progress and investment in order to create a hook. So you need to show the user that they've progressed. There needs to be some kind of an investment which brings them back to the platform. And that brings us back to the cue or trigger, which restarts the same loop. Let's look at Zomato again to understand what this loop looks like for Zomato. The trigger is wanting to eat out, plain and simple. We either want to go out to eat or we want to order in. The activity we perform next is explore restaurants nearby. So we go on the app, we search for all the restaurants nearby. We check out reviews and ratings to decide upon the restaurant, and that is the feedback that the app is giving us. The app captures our progress in the form of points and assigns levels that come with appropriate benefits, as we'd earlier discussed. The user is invested on the platform because she gets benefits from this platform by contributing to the platform. As Andy and I were chatting earlier, I have not contributed to the platform much, so I have not gotten those benefits. Then we circle back to the cue or trigger of eating out when we again open the application. And that's how we create a habit loop, and that's how we close the loop. So I hope that made sense to everyone.
Okay. Just a quick question. What would Zomato need to do to have you contribute more, to actually sit down and type in a review?
No,
How could they
actually,
improve this process?
so I'm to sort of relay this in terms of innovation diffusion theory. I think I'm one of the laggards here, which is why I'm not, internally motivated to contribute. But I think
Right.
people who are doing that, the early adopters, the innovators, are doing that. Even the majority is doing that right now because, of course, they have a lot of traffic on their application. But needless to say, I think the loop is still closed for me because I still go to Zomato whenever I think of ordering food from outside. So that loop is still there. Yes, I'm
Great.
not contributing in terms of the reviews.
Great. And as you rightly pointed out, you are not actually one of the core super fans, not a super fan for them. So that's why
Absolutely.
while you use it, you benefit from it.
Yeah.
You're not totally invested in a sense to help them
Yeah.
get further and to gain benefits for yourself, right?
Very interesting, Andy. And you're right. I mean, had they come to me when they were actually developing this application, I might have given them a very bad inputs.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. They shouldn't talk to
Okay.
you.
Okay. So yep, I hope that you guys got a better understanding of what a mastery path is and the pleasurable learning loop is and why they are important in creating these repeatable, pleasurable activities to engage the customers for the long term, right? Okay. I know you guys have worked on many projects together, and there is this particular project that you guys work on remotely. I mean, Jaxton was in Malaysia, Ambikesh, you were in India, and you still managed to work with the Indian client. Tell us more about this. They are from Travel Triangle, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Annie, you're right. This was something that Jaxton and I worked on together, and we were able to do this remotely, which is very significant in today's day and time. Had we been working on this project right now, I think we would have been able to do an equally good job. Because Jaxton was in KL, I was in Mumbai, and our client Travel Triangle, they are based out of Gurugram, and that's another city in India for those who don't know. So it's 2.5 hour flight from here, and then some traveling through road. So yeah, I didn't travel much myself, and Jaxton of course didn't travel at all for this. So we were able to do this remotely and very well, in fact. And it was an amazing experience. The conversation with Travel Triangle began on the subject of gamification, actually, right, Jaxton?
Yeah, exactly. So Travel Triangle, they are really smart startup. That's why they grew up really quickly, and then they have a bunch of really smart innovators as well. So they want to do gamification. They're trying to experiment gamifications. So the early conversation that I can still recall that they experiment with a control group and an experiment group, and then they use some very basic game mechanism like points and give them the rewards. But certainly after a while, they see this is not the end goal, and certainly they want to look out for something which is can drive a long-term engagement and the long-term motivations rather than only using those point mechanism. That's why I think that is a time that they get in touch with you, right, Ambikesh?
Yeah, absolutely, Jaxton, and the Superfan screening and then the subsequent interviews that we did with them were an amazing revelation. We were able to realize through this survey that all the travel agencies and the customers that they were interacting with are using WhatsApp to interact, and that was amazing because this is, I mean, Travel Triangle always suspected that, but we now had data to prove that. And what we did next was integrate their platform with WhatsApp, and what that did was it made the travel agencies very happy because their day-to-day work became much easier. At just a click of a button, they were able to share data through WhatsApp. The customers, of course, were already happy because they know how to use WhatsApp. It's a daily habit for them, anyways. And Travel Triangle was happy because they were now able to capture all this information, which was otherwise flowing outside of the platform. And other than that, I think another big takeaway, as you can see here, Vishnu, who was the VP of Travel Triangle and our main point of contact, he later on told us that even after the project ended, they were able to, they're a very smart company, a very innovative company. They keep trying different solutions, different experiments. So, but each of those experiments would generally take them about 20 to 30 days to implement. But after the game thinking methodology was implemented, they were aware of it, and they had that cohort of super fans. They were able to reduce that whole cycle to just down to 5 or 7 days. So that, in effect, was one of the biggest takeaways that that Travel Triangle had from this project, and it was an amazing success for us.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like they really saved quite a bit by reducing their innovation cycle from 20 to 30 days to just 5 days. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Were there any challenges doing this project since it was done remotely? Were there any culture issues with the language and all that? Did the people prefer face-to-face, or were they okay with remote?
I mean, of course, I'll let Jaxton answer the culture issue, but I think from the remote perspective, there was no problems. We were able to do this very smoothly, right, Jaxton?
Yeah, I think I should leave the culture for you to answer. Okay, so I think there's no culture issue because you were the one that actually managed everything. But I think everything was going very smoothly because the internal project team from Travel Triangle is very supportive. They help us to schedule all the Zoom call, and looking at it, it's not possible to all conduct face-to-face as well because their travel agents are actually like scattered around the entire India. So we were doing Zoom, and it's very effective. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, otherwise we couldn't have done it. We couldn't possibly travel to all of these locations. And the other thing I've realized is, and it was an amazing takeaway for me, was that, because you could record your conversations on Zoom, you can listen to it later on and take down notes, and that really helps. So overall, I think we didn't have any problems doing this remotely.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for sharing with us your success with Travel Triangle. Okay, as we are coming to the end of this webinar, we are going to look into the question and answers and answer the questions that you have. So currently there are about 5 questions, and okay, I'll just answer them, or rather I'll just hand it off to be answered as and when it comes in. So the first one is, what do you do if you don't have a complete super fan, or if there are only a handful, if you force feed them? Maybe Jaxton, you can take this question.
Yep, sure. Okay. So first of all, I think when we are doing the superfan screening, right, for most of the projects, we may not be right away you actually get the right group of the people. But in fact, actually, the superfans we can actually do on multiple cohorts. Like each cohort, you identify about 10 to 15. You can do 3 cohorts with actually gather around 50 people. If let's say they really fit into the superfans, that would be very valuable to you already. But in the event, if you do not have the right audience first, you want to relook into your outreach message, right?
Yeah.
You want to relook into your questions, right? So when after you run multiple cohorts that you still find that actually you couldn't get it right, then you may want to take a step back to look at your MVP canvas, because whatever that we identify for what we are looking for the superfans all come from the MVP canvas, which is under the first stage of the game thinking hypothesis. Yeah.
And just to add to that, Jackson, you're absolutely right. I mean, if we find out through these analysis that we're not striking the right chord with the audience, we're not finding really our super fans, then probably we need to relook, and pivot a little, because that's the whole idea of doing this super fan survey and the study, so that you don't spend your money and resources on something which people are not going to connect with later on. So I would say if you're not getting the right results, maybe do a couple of cohorts, but then step back and pivot.
Yep, exactly.
Yep,
That's
right. I think one of the key things from the superfans interviews would be whether or not the people whom you think will buy your products and who need your products actually want to buy the products in the first place. Yeah, because sometimes people have a lot of things that they want to do, but there is no need for it. Okay, exactly. I hope that has answered the question. Next one is from James. What are the common channels you use to send out the surveys to identify the superfans? And how do you ensure good coverage to avoid biasness? Jackson or Ambikesh?
Sure, I'll take this. So, guys, generally, we use online channels. If we are like, for example, for Travel Triangle, of course, it was an internal project for them. So they already had access to all the travel agencies that were working with them. So they had their email IDs. They were also on the platform, so they used to log in. So we posted the survey there on their platform itself. Otherwise, if we're talking about a B2C example where we're trying to reach out to an open audience, just make a mental model of, and that's where the MVP canvas really helps you. So in the MVP canvas, one of the first things that you put down is how would you define your early adopters? How would you define your early audience that you want to reach out to? And once you have that set, just make a mental note of what is the place that these people you would find these people. So for example, if I'm looking for say if my application is for children, I need to reach out to their parents, right? Because they are going to be the people who buy this application for their children. So maybe I need to reach out to a platform where parents congregate. So for example, there are a lot of Facebook groups for brown mommies unite and parents network and stuff like that. So I would probably reach out there. So it all depends on who is your audience, who is the early audience, how do you define them, and where would you find them.
Yeah,
so online
that's
channels,
very true.
social media channels like Facebook, of course. WhatsApp, of course, is a very popular channel, and you could find a lot of WhatsApp groups. And there are other I think, of course, in the Asia Pacific region, WeChat is also very popular. So a lot of these social media applications come in handy.
Thanks, Ambikesh. Okay, next question will be, how would habit look like for face-to-face engagements like consultancy or coaching? Okay, maybe I'll take this one. So when you have face-to-face engagements, when you do coaching with a person, what is the key thing that the other person wants? They want to know, number one, how they can be helped, okay? And they want to know their answers, right? So in terms of habit forming activities, there'll probably need to be constant catch-ups with them, letting them know how they're doing. And of course, at the same time, they need to know that they are doing better. And this is from the face-to-face meetings that when you do with them, they need to also account for the actions that they have agreed and committed to be doing. So in terms of habit building, it is more of giving them and agreeing with them what are the things that they need to do and to continue doing it. Okay, Ambikesh or Jackson, would you like to add on to this?
Yeah, I wasn't exactly clear about the question, but I think you covered it, Andy. It's basically driving again. If you want to create a habit loop, even if you are a consulting service, or a coaching service, you need to understand, what is the cue or trigger, and then what is the activity that people would, want to work with you on, what kind of feedback you're giving to them, and what is the investment that people have with you as a consulting service. I'm not sure if I'm answering that correctly, if I understood that correctly, but that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you. So currently we have got a few more questions here, but we're also running out of time. So I hope it's okay that we will answer these questions and then we'll send you the recording together with the recording of this webinar at a later point, because we don't want to hold everybody back from their other appointments. So at this point, I will pass it on to Ambikesh. Oh, sorry. I will do a close-up first. I'll do a recap and then pass it on to Ambikesh. Okay, so today we covered the core principles. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. We covered the 3 core principles of game thinking, right? So number 1 is the superfans. And superfans are basically like your design partners, your early adopters, your co-creators. These are people who have a need. They are looking for solutions. And these high need early customers are invested in having a solution. So work with them, get them involved, and help them get what they need. And number 2 is a mastery path. Mastery path is a journey first approach to designing engagement. It's where your customers go on a journey to become better versions of themselves. And how they can do that is to tie it together with a pleasurable learning loop, build habits, and these habits will help them to become more engaged in activities. And once they get better, they are invested, it will help you to drive long-term engagement with them. Okay, so to help you with these 3 core principles in the design process, there are 3 questions that you can ask. Who are my first core customers? What do they want or need to get better at? And how will they engage with my product or service over time? Okay, and I will hand off to Ambikesh to explain a little bit more of the free gift that we're giving to you.
All right. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. As a thanks for joining us, all of you will get this MVP canvas in your email. This is like the starting point for our game thinking journey, where we create our hypothesis. So this is what I think all of us have touched upon in our conversation today. And you define your early customers, unmet need, value proposition, our solution, the early metrics that you look at to see if it's a success or not, unfair advantage that you have over your competitors probably, and most importantly, the key assumptions that you're taking at this point. So believe me, this template itself gives you immense clarity and vision. Beyond this, we would love to work with you to create innovative solutions if that's what you're looking for. And in order to do that, we use highly effective official templates created by Amy Joo Kim herself at the Game Thinking Academy. These templates give you the step-by-step process that gets you to your product market fit. So guys, to work with us, go to www.madmethods.in/GTAsia offer. I'll repeat, that's www.madmethods.in/GTA offer. And you can take a picture of the screen, guys, if you want, but you'll get this in your follow-up emails also. On this link, you'll be able to watch a short video that outlines the whole innovation process for you, how we will help you. Then just fill a short application form so that we know more about you and we see whether we are a fit or not. And you can apply to work with us. We look forward to hearing from all of you. I hope you enjoyed today's session. You're able to learn something, and we look forward to hearing from you. You will get all these details in an email later on. Over to you, Andy.
All right. Thank you very much, Ambikesh and Jackson, for taking the time to share with everyone how they can lead innovation in game thinking. And to everyone on this webinar, thank you for sharing your time with us. We hope that you found this session to be useful and that you have gained some applicable insights. We look forward to having you at our next seminar and helping you to accelerate your innovation. So thank you, everyone, for coming.
Cheers, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.